Hello everyone, Rockrufff here with another video, and in this video I want to be talking about my farming strategy. So currently my farming strategy is memory fragment farming. And the reason why I'm farming memory fragments is because I want to get a Fiend Crown. Now Fiend Crown is a very powerful minion helmet, and that helmet is very expensive at the moment. Now if we go to Voidlands and we click on any map, there is the Dragon Slayer nodes, which gives a Fiend Crown. Now this is a Fiend Crown, for those who do not know what it is a very good minion helmet. And as most of you might know, I am currently playing a minion build, so getting this is very nice. But yeah, as most of you might notice, it is a special drop, which means it is very rare, and it's not always going to appear easily. So, what do I do? So, memory fragment farming is actually not that bad. By memory fragment farming, I also feel like I might have a higher chance on dropping the Dragon Slayer nodes. And most likely I am using this trade deck for it. So this is my card deck, and one of my main cards is Sentimental. Now Sentimental gives me a chance to drop memory fragments from normal monsters. It is a very low chance, as you can see, only 0.53% chance. But this card is basically the main card of the deck. You would always want to try and aim for this card and run this card as the first card, as it will help you drop more memory fragments. Now another card I also use is Envious. Now Envious, there's an 18% chance for 18% chance that one memory fragment Forbidden Prophecy will drop with memory fragments. So basically what that means that if I drop a memory fragment from these normal monsters with my 53% chance from Sentimental, I will also on top of that have an 18% chance to drop Forbidden Prophecy. So without Sentimental, I will less likely be able to drop Forbidden Prophecy, because the less memory fragments I drop, the less Forbidden Prophecies I will have. And that's why it's very important that if you have Envious, that you also should have Sentimental. Now, not having Sentimental, there is still a chance that you'll drop memory fragments, but obviously that is going to be way lower without Sentimental. Anyway, you will most likely not drop the Dragon Slayer nodes. Like I said, Dragon Slayer nodes is very rare, but I do in fact drop many Forbidden Prophecies with Envious, but I also drop a lot of Mods Trick, or let's see, what do I have in my inventory at the moment? Yeah, so I do manage to drop a lot of Mods Trick, which gives Flame Elementium. And there's also Unfinished Business and Forbidden Prophecy, like I said, from the Envious card. And then most likely you will also be able to drop Useless Prophecy, which is also very common to drop. And Secret of Glacial Abys also drops pretty often. So most likely I drop Useless Prophecy, Secret of Glacial Abyss, Mods Trick. I also even drop the Queen's Jewelry Box and Euro's Legacy, Six Gods Blessing. So all of these cards down below over here are droppable with memory fragments. Now Mods Trick is a little bit more rare because it's a high rarity, and then there's Forbidden Prophecy. So now legendary cards do not always drop. Now most of these I did get from the Cube of Rapacity, but some of these I also dropped on the floor. For example, the Dragon Slayer notes. As you can see, so far I only have 3. And I'm getting closer to the 8, but I haven't really been able to drop any Dragon Slayer notes in the past few days, which is a bit unfortunate, but we're still over here trying, and yeah. The thing is, I don't mind not being able to drop Dragon Slayer notes constantly, because I also drop a lot of these common cards, which does stack up. As you can see, like I already have a few stacks of Useless Prophecy, which gives a random memory. And when it does give a random memory, it can also turn out to be a legendary memory fragment. So farming memory fragments is in fact not even that bad, because you can get lots of other stuff from it as well. Now, one of the main cards that I've also been able to drop is the Ichi Sandstorm, and Ichi Sandstorm gives a legendary Soldier Spectacle. This is a very expensive helmet as well, and this just randomly dropped, and I managed to multiply it using my profiling compasses. And as you can see, profiling compasses, it basically multiplies my memory fragments, and well, the rusted one gives 10% chance, but if you use, for example, like a shiny one, it'll give me a 35% chance. So, I did manage to multiply this card, and as you can see, this card itself is almost 200 FE, so it's a very good drop as well. But yeah, memory fragments are not that bad. I also got an Endless Fortress. This is the chest that I got from one of my memory fragments. Now, I did get a bit lucky on the quantity, as this can be -2 but also be +2, so I got a max roll and I got very lucky on that. But yeah, you can get very good bases from opening a bunch of memory fragments. Yes, most likely, if I open a bunch of, let's see, Euro's Legacy or 6 God's Blessing, I will most likely get the common ones, but there is always going to be a chance that you'll get a good one. And I also got a Farewell Desire from one of these memory fragments at like the second day or so. So yeah, you can get pretty good stuff from it if you're lucky. So if you do not always drop Dragon Slayer nodes, do not worry, you will always get some kind of good item from farming memory fragments. And that's why I think memory fragments farming is actually very good. Anyway, let's talk about the rest of the deck, as I've only explained Sentimental and Envious. So some other cards that I also have is Reserved. Now, Reserved is simply there that if I don't have Sentimental, I would want to try and pull it out using Reserved. Now, as you can see, Reserved itself does not come with a minus Chaos Invasion attempt. And most of the other cards, for example, Longing over here, it does have this last sentence over here where it says stage Chaos Invasion attempt costs -1, which means that if I use this card, I won't waste any Chaos Invasion attempt, because this is like pretty much a free card at that point when it has this over here. And that's something that Reserve does not have. And that's why we're using Honest. So Honest allows me to basically free pull cards from my deck. And another reason why I have Honest is sometimes I get Sentimental together with Lively. Now Lively gives me a chance to drop additional Netherrealm Resonance. Now the reason why I want this card is because I have a hard time sustaining Resonance, as I'm constantly using Resonance, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys also have this same issue. So having Lively is a very nice card to put in every single one of my decks. And if I do get both Lively and Sentimental, I would have to pick. Now, if I want both of these cards, well, I can pretty much get both of these cards if I do have Honest. So if I have Honest, I will most likely run Lively first, and then Sentimental, and I will get both of the drops. So, another card that I have in here is Benevolent. Now, Benevolent is just simply there because it's a very good card, and it will always give me some Flame Elementium, and yeah, who wouldn't want Flame Elementium anyway, right? Then there's the Trial cards that I have over here. Trial God of Mind, and we've got God of Machines and Gods of Hunting. Now you can also throw in Trial God of War, but God of War, it always feels like that is dropping me way less loot compared to the God of Machines or God of Might. So to me, you know, God of Machines is one of my most favorite trials here. But yeah, the reason why I have the trials in here is mainly because if I have no other good cards, so let's say Sentimental is not there and Reserved is also not there, then I can always run Trial God of Machines, and I will always be able to, you know, drop some kind of loot, right? Now, another reason why the trials are here is because of this Fluorescence card. This Fluorescence Trance card, it basically turns gear into memory fragments. So as long as I drop gear, I will get memory fragments. Now, as most of you might know, the trials drop lots of gear, especially in tier 8. I can drop so much gear using the gear compasses, and it will all turn into memory fragments when you have this card. Now there is another card that is very similar to that, which is called Fuel Trance. And Fuel Trance makes your gear become flame fuel instead. Now both of these cards, are very nice to have, but the thing is they're very rare and yeah, it's difficult to draw out, so you will rarely get these cards. Now I do believe there are some ways to pull out these cards, and one of these I believe is by using just with Agile and Alert. Now the reason why you would want to use just with Agile and Alert is because Awaken. Now once Agile and Alert is awakened, as you can see, it will draw a legendary chaos call, and like I said, these two cards, as you can see, these are legendary cards, so you will have a higher chance on pulling these out by awakening both of these. Now, I have tried this for a while, but the thing is, I just simply don't find it worth it to try and pull those out, because at the same time, I can also farm something else, like memory fragments, and go for my Fiend Crown, right? So at the moment, I am strongly trying to focus on my Dragon Slayer notes and drop a Fiend Crown. And get a Fiend Crown. So, yeah, I do believe that Agile, Alert, and Just combination is a good combo to pull out those cards. Now, if you guys have any other suggestions to try and pull out those cards, please let me know in the comment down below. Now, another card that I have in here is Perception. So the reason why I have Perception in here is most likely because of Lively. Now, if I do have a bad round and I have Lively with Perception, well, as you can see, if I get a Goddess of Hunting Trial, I have a 75% chance to replicate legendary bosses using this card. So what does that mean? I will basically be able to try and duplicate the Netherrealm Resonance, as I have 2 bosses instead of 1. So more bosses means more resonance for me, pretty much. Now, another card that I like to combine Perception with is Disconsolate, which is down here. Now, Disconsolate is a card that it says bosses drop 6 additional memory fragments. So the more bosses I have, the more memory fragments I'll be able to drop. And as you can see, this card has memory rather than inheritance, but the inheritance of Perception, I believe that was 3 or 4. Yeah, so 3. So I will be able to try and duplicate those bosses and duplicate the Disconsolate drop for about like 2 or 3 times. So yeah, it is pretty nice to run that card combined with Disconsolate. Now, another nice card that might be fitting here is this Dark Search card, which also drops memory fragments. Now, the reason why I don't have Dark Search in here is because if I put the Dark Search card in here, it'll draw 3 Dark Search cards. And Dark Search cards, let's see how many there are. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are at least 8 cards, and it can only pull out at max 3, I believe. Let me check real quick. So 2 cards when it's level 5, and 3 cards when it's awakened. So I don't have a very high chance of pulling out that memory fragment card, and on top of that, Dark Search does not appear in my map very often. Unless I use the Dark Search Compass, of course, then I will guarantee get the Dark Search in my map. But yeah, the cards itself in this deck over here, I believe it gives like a 10% chance only, or 15% chance for the stage to be corroded by the Dark Search. So it's not a very high chance. If you have multiple cards together, that would probably be better. But I feel like using the Dark Search requires a whole different deck where you can stack up the Dark Search card and have a high percent chance on making the Dark Search appear in your maps, as well as getting all of these rewards. So that's why the Dark Search card is in fact not in there. I do feel like Sentimental, Envious, Disconsolate from the other deck is a very good combination with Perception, and that combination does appear very frequently for me, so I will most likely be able to farm using Sentimental or Disconsolation and Perception. So there's basically 2 ways on farming memory fragments. Now, disconsolate does have a higher chance to appear because it's only a rare card, and you can also try and pull that card out if you want by using Agile. And Agile, oh yeah, sorry, it's a magic card. So Agile pulls out all your magic cards from your plane, but it draws 4 magic chaos card, which means it will almost likely pull out disconsolate as well. But the reason why I don't want to do that is because it will pull out of my magic cards, which means that, for example, when I have lively, I don't want to pull that one out, so... And the thing is, disconsolate, you know, it just appears more than enough for me. And that's why I don't really need that card. Yeah, anyway. Speaking of duplicating bosses, now, like I said, perception is one way to replicate your legendary bosses, but there is another way, in fact, which is from the cube monsters. And the cube monsters have their own bosses, such as the Malice Executor and the Malice Judge. And if you go to the Heart of Rapacity, there is the Avarice Code. Now, if you have the tree exactly like this, you will be able to get more bosses from the cube season. So one of the main nodes over here is going to be Avatar of Desire, which gives a Malice Judge. Now, a Malice Judge is a pretty powerful boss, and it can be pretty difficult to fight in tier 8. In tier 8, in fact, I do sometimes get one-shot by it. So, keep that in mind. If you are going to pick this, it can be pretty difficult. So I would first try it out and see if you can do it. If you can't do it, then I would probably stick to tier 7. Or you could like replace this node and go this way instead for a Party of Sin, which will be a little bit easier. And the Malice Executor still has a chance of appearing, obviously, but the Malice Judge won't. So, one of the things about the Malice Judge is you can also replicate the Malice Judge, which means you can have 2 of those. At most, I have seen 2 myself, but one of my friends told me, I know most of you guys might know Mike 1UP. Mike 1UP told me that he gotten 4 Malice Judges in his map. And I do in fact believe him because I had 5 Malice Executors in one of my maps as well. And most likely this only happens in tier 8, by the way, so I have ran plenty of tier 7 maps. And in tier 7 maps, I will most likely only get like 2 to 3 bosses from the cube. But yeah, I do have a screenshot for you guys, actually. Let's see if I can find it real quick. And there it is. So, this screenshot, as you can see, the Malice Executor is in fact one of those bosses. So if you do have Disconsolate, for example, or Lively that drops a bunch of resonance from the bosses, well, if you have those cards, you have like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 5 bosses in this map. So if you have 5 bosses and you spawn them in, then you will basically be able to get 5 times the rewards from the cards. Now, I don't know exactly the reason to how I got 5 of these in my map, but I do believe it has something to do with the replication and that it has a chance, or a higher chance in tier 8, to spawn in a Malice Executor or like any other Malice Judge boss or something. So I do believe that spawning in the boss does give a 90% chance to replicate, and that it basically spawned in like maybe 2 bosses and that it duplicated only 2 of those, and then the 5th it just spawned in without replicating. So that's how I think this happened, but I'm not for sure though, because there is over here in fact this node over here called Vile Growth, and it says Desire Incarnations in the stage have a 90% chance to replicate. And that, I believe, is the reason how it basically replicates all of those bosses. But anyway, like I said, multiple bosses with these cards in your deck does in fact give you more drops. So, that's pretty much how I'm getting so much resonance, and how I'm getting lots of memory fragments using disconsolate as well. So it is a very good combination to run tier 8 with disconsolate or lively and get lots of loot. Now, other ways to do this is obviously if you're going for legendary gear, there's also these cards. So everything, like every card that says bosses drop, it also works on the cube bosses So yeah, that's what I pretty much wanted to tell you guys for memory fragment farming. Now, other cards that could be useful from the Chaos deck would be Furious. Now, as you guys might notice, Sentimental, it says chance for normal monsters to drop. Now, normal monsters are very hard to get in your map. There is unfortunately no compasses on the market that gives normal monsters in your map. There is rare monsters though, like this one for example, that gives 23 additional rare monsters. But there's no normal version of this. There is magic one, but the normal one is it doesn't exist apparently. So it is a bit unfortunate, which makes it a little bit more harder to actually get normal monsters in your map. So I do believe that Rage or the other card that has 5 inheritance, this one, that it will drop additional, that it will give additional normal monsters. So these two cards are also very nice to run if you happen to get those. Another nice card would be the drop quantity cards. And also the chest cards. So the cards that gives mystery chests is also very nice. Some mystery chests drop lots of memory fragments, and you can also multiply the memory fragments using compasses. So, compasses. Most likely you would want to use the profiling compass. Now, I most likely use a rusted for any map, even if I don't have sentimental. And the reason why is because I just want to be able to just multiply any memory fragment possible. Now, if I do get sentimental, I will most likely run shiny with Dated. And sometimes when I'm even running a tier 8 map, I will use shiny combined with dazzling. And dazzling, as you can see, it even gives me a chance to multiply the fragments by 3, and this allows me to quadruple all of my memory fragments. So yeah, if you do in fact drop a good card and you happen to multiply it by 3, well, that's gonna be lots of FE for you. Yeah, that is basically how I use my compasses in this deck. Now, if you happen to get the Fluorescence Trance card, then most likely you would want to run your compasses like this. So, you would obviously want to use Dazzling Profiling, but you also would want to use Militant, because depending on your gear drop, you will drop the fragments. So the more gear you drop, the more fragments you will drop. And then using Dazzling, you will basically be able to multiply everything. So these two are very important, and then it is up to you if you want to, like, I would preferably want to go with a shiny Militant as well. And then perhaps a Dated, and then go with a shiny Profiling. Or how many comps do I have right now, actually? I mean, you could run it like this, or you could, you know, try and multiply a bit more. It is totally up to you, though. But I would probably do it like this. Get 3 gear and 1 dazzling for multiplying the fragments. But yeah, anyway, I have another area for you guys beside Voidlands, and that is going to be Glacial Abyss. Now, Glacial Abyss itself also has a special drop. Now, each one of these areas does have a special drop, and there's always going to be a fragment. Now, the second best fragment, I would say, is in Glacial Abyss for the Burning Heart. Burning Heart also has a pretty good price, as you can see. It is around 30, I would say. So yeah, there's 2 places that you can farm memory fragments and valuable memory fragments. I would suggest going in either Glacial or Voidlands. Voidlands, obviously, the better area, as the Fiend, no, not the Fiend Crown, but the Dragon Slayer nodes has the most value here. Now, for the Thunder Waste and Steel Forge and Blistering Lava Sea, these unfortunately do not have any valuable special drops. As you can see, these are not worth much. So it's simply not worth it, for me at least, to go in these areas. But if you do need one of these things and you want to self-farm it, then yeah, you can also use the memory fragment deck that I just showed you guys. Yeah, these are not worth as much. It's not a lot of a fee. I would say that I wouldn't really recommend farming in here, and the reason why is because it's simply not worth the time. Like, the time that I spent here dropping a special drop, I might as well do it here and get Dragon Slayer notes, right? Anyway, one of my other farming strategies is obviously duping. Now, duping bosses, like I told you guys earlier in the Avarice Code, that's something I do. And the reason why mostly is because of lively. Now, obviously, what I'm also doing is boss rushing. So if I'm boss rushing, I will most likely use that same tray as I'm trying to duplicate bosses, because I will most likely use lively or relaxed along with regretful and pity. Now, the reason why we are boss rushing Steelforge in particular is because of the breast spin drop. Now, the breast spin itself is a very rare amulet, and well, if you're gonna take a look at the trait, as you can see, it has a pretty high price. So, if you happen to draw one of these, well, that is very huge, obviously, and this is also a minion amulet, so definitely Steelforge is one of those areas that I also would want to farm and do some boss rushing, and the best way to do so is by using Regretful with Pity. Now, Pity and Regretful both give attention points, and the more attention points you get, the faster you can fight this boss, and obviously, if you go faster, then you'll most likely get your breast spin to drop faster as well, right? But yeah, that's basically the idea. Boss rushing, I will not clear the map. I will literally just go to the boss. I will skip everything, and that's why I most likely don't have any cards that has to do with normal monsters or rare monsters, but has to do with bosses instead. Now, another combination is lively with detached. Now, if I drop NetherRealm Resonance, I will also drop rusted and dated compasses, and this is also a very nice way to farm compasses and sustain your compasses. If you want to farm compasses, then using lively with detached and relaxed would be very nice, plus duplicating the bosses, which means you will get many more compasses. Now, another way to farm compasses obviously is by the Dark Search. Now, sometimes you also get compass rewards from the trials. And, but yeah, there is a Dark Search card that can specifically give you a higher chance on getting compasses on the drops. Let me see if I can show you guys real quick. So there is this Dark Search card. It is called Compass Dark Search, and it'll basically greatly increase the chance for Dark Search corrosion to reward enhancement compasses. So this is a nice way to get compasses, and another nice way is by getting Narrow. Now, this card... Oh yeah, for those who do not know how to get these legendary cards, by the way, if you click on the magnifying glass, it'll tell you where you unlock it. Now, complete 8 of Timemark, Throne of Winter. I do believe that this is a translation, it's a bad translation. It's supposed to say complete Timemark 8 Throne of Winter. You don't have to complete 8 of them, you only need to do 1 of them. So, yeah, this is just bad wording. But yeah. This is Timemark 8 Scorching Winter. That was in Glacial, I believe. Hold on, let me click this. Thank you. So, over here we have the Throne of Winter Scorching. And that is exactly where this card comes from. Throne of Winter. Now, the other card over here comes from the Hellfire Chasm Chilling. That should be Blistering Lava. So if you do one of these, you will also get that card. And then the other one, which was Narrow, which comes from the Dreamless Abyss Brilliant, which is Voidlands. So this one. And that's pretty much where you can get those cards. So. Anyway. Like I was saying, this card, it is actually very nice. It gives a full 0.2% chance for monsters to drop 1 additional shiny compass. And this says monsters, it doesn't say normal monsters, it doesn't say rare monsters, it basically says any monster. So, I feel like getting this card is gonna be very good. And yeah, since I haven't had it myself, I don't know what it's like, but I can see this being very nice for compass farming. But yeah, that is pretty much all my farming strats over here. I've talked about duplicating bosses and how I can duplicate the drops. And then you can also use the other uh, cards that gives boss drops to try and duplicate those drops as well. I've also talked about my memory fragment farm, which I am currently doing. And then there's also the boss rushing farm for Steel Forge, for the breastplate, and also other reasons why I'm farming. Well, the other reason why I'm boss rushing is because I'm trying to get some tier 8 maps. And yeah, some precise auras, also pretty nice. So you get a good amount of loot doing boss rushing. You also get a good amount of loot doing duplicating bosses and memory fragment farming. Those are all really nice ways of doing so. Now, fuel farming is not something I really do, but a good deck for this would be, let's see. A good combination of cards would be Generous, with Benevolent, obviously. And then, if you have Generous, it says rare monsters drop 2 additional flame fuels. Now, what you would want is obviously get rare monsters in your map. Now, there is unfortunately no card for that anymore. There used to be a card for that in Season 1. But the best way to get rare monsters in your map is by obviously trying to pull out cards, for example, like Rage or Furious. And then the quantity cards would also be nice. Another card that would be nice is going to be Jealous. Now, pulling out Jealous is actually pretty easy because there is Longing. So, putting together Generous, Longing, and Benevolent, that should be plenty to try and farm Flame Fuel. And as you can see, it says randomly draws 2 Commodity Chaos cards. Now, how do you know what Commodity Chaos cards are? You go to the Chaos decks, you Fuel Library, and you select Commodity. And these are all the Commodity cards that it can possibly pull out. In fact, it can pull out Fuel Trance, which means using Longing is actually a pretty good way to try and pull the Fuel Trance card out. And some other nice cards is obviously going to be the Origin Gels, which gives you 1 additional Flame Elementium. And the, well, Ominous Gels, that if you're a crafter and you use a lot of Ultimate Embers, then this is also a pretty nice card for you. But, I don't know, Ember farming at the moment does not really feel that great. So, yeah. Like, I have tried to do Ember farming, and it actually looked pretty bad, as I was only dropping a few Embers with the Ember cards. Even with the cards, it was not much, so, yeah, Ember farming this time is probably not gonna be it. But yeah, those are pretty much some suggestions for you guys for card decks. I have explained my card decks, and yeah, I hope you guys have a good way of farming things now. And yeah, hopefully you guys get some better loot than me, better guards, better cards, sorry. Memory fragments. Like I said, you know, you'll most likely get like common legendaries if you're opening the legendary ones, but you can also get good ones, so hopefully you guys get some interesting legendaries from it as well. But yeah, that was pretty much it for this video. I hope I explained everything well. If you guys have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And yeah, I also stream on Twitch if you guys want to see me farm memory fragments for my Fiend Crown. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.